All right, so welcome to today's co-survivor Zoom. Uh, Today we titled today's topic, Finding Your Niche in Cardiac Arrest Advocacy. We have a guest speaker, or two guest speakers rather, uh, Greg and Julie Coon. They're a co-survivor and a survivor. And they'll be sharing their experience with getting involved in advocacy and sort of how they figured out what it was they wanted to do and all of that. And then after Greg and Julie have wrapped up their presentation, we can have time for questions, discussion, or if anybody else wants to share their experience with getting involved in advocacy. So take it away, Greg and Julie.
Howdy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Okay, so we're gonna play two videos. We're gonna actually start the whole thing with her story or our story, and then how we started Cardiac Crusade. So I practiced this, and I'm gonna cross my fingers that I do it right. All right, so October 11th, 2018 is the day that Julie was reborn. It's actually her rebirth day, which is what happens when someone survives a cardiac arrest.
My name's Julie, and I am married to Greg, and we have two wonderful kids. And I'm a chronic volunteer. We've been helping in schools and sporting events, and my sorority alumni. And there's a story I want to tell you, though, about what happened to me. I was volunteering actually at the high school for the drill team, which our daughter had been a member of. And we were handing out pink out ribbons for the Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. And after we had done that, I walked out into the parking lot, was talking to my good friend Diane.
First, Julie reached her hand out to grab my shoulder, and I realized that her eyes just kind of froze. I don't think more than, 2 or 3 seconds passed before I dialed 911. It was very immediate.
Hello, Plano 911.
I'm at Plano Senior High. Somebody just fell to the ground, and we need an ambulance.
All right. Okay, I've got paramedics on the way. Can you tell me what happened?
She just fell. I was standing here talking to her, and she fell.
I saw her fall, and her friend tried to catch her. I knew that the closest person to me that would be able to help and was an adult was our bus driver.
One of the athletes run up and say, "Coach, a lady just fell down or passed out. I don't know if she's okay."
Before I knew it, I saw a man running from the school bus.
Coach started compressions and said to get the trainer.
And is she awake?
No, she's unconscious.
Okay, is she breathing?
Is she breathing? She's not breathing. My God.
Is there somebody else there with you, ma'am?
Yes, somebody's doing chest compressions, and we have an athletic trainer just came out.
I came out, I saw him, and so I ran to the double doors. And at that time, I think the twin girls, Riley and Christy, must have been coming past me.
Coach Foley comes running and goes, "Get the AED."
Is there a defibrillator available?
Is this a defibrillator? Well, yes, there's a defibrillator.
Got there, put it down, pressed the on button. It's really simple because it lays it out for you. And right when you turn it on, it tells you step by step what to do.
Coach Foley grabbed the pads. When she said she was ready, I stopped. She put them on. The machine basically takes over in terms of doing a run on vitals.
Do not touch patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Please wait. Preparing shock. Move away from the patient. Shock delivered.
And then it shocked her. She kind of bounced with it a little bit.
I think we all kind of were like, oh man, like, did it work? Did it help? Like, did we do anything to help her?
And it ran its sequence again, and again it says clear, and then it did the second shock. And about the same time the second shock was given, the ambulance was just parking.
The things that Jackie and Tom and the girls did worked so well that by the time we got there, there wasn't a ton for us to do. Once we recognize that, all right, she's got a strong pulse back, we stop CPR and we let her body start, going back to the way that it should be. She may or may not remember it. She may or may not, have any recollection of it. But I wanted her to know that she was okay and that we were going to take care of her. So basically, I got real close to her. I was sitting right next to her. Got real close to her. Said Julie. She looked at me, and I said, "Welcome back."
In the hospital, that I remember waking up and, or at least coming to, and looking at the ceiling tiles. And when the staff attendant to me noticed that I was opening my eyes, they said, "Welcome back, and you are a very lucky lady."
We were there for about 45 minutes and somewhere in there. But I do remember the paramedic pulling me aside, and this is when it started sinking in. I don't remember who told me it was not just fainting, it was a cardiac arrest. And at this time, I don't know the difference between a cardiac arrest and a heart attack. And so, or really what happened. And so I remember Brandon Guess is the paramedic that was there with Julie, and he comes up and he says, "Can I give you a hug?" And it was the first time that it kind of started hitting me that what really was happening, because it was so frenetic. Is that the right word? It was so crazy. It was so, so much was happening and so much new information was coming into my brain. Whereas the first time I just went,
So after getting out of the hospital after a week and realizing this is my new life, and Greg had come up with a really good idea about how in the world would I have been saved if there wasn't an AED nearby and somebody knew where to get it.
I look at my phone and I'm like, why is it that I can look up and ask my smartphone, Google or Siri, where the closest Starbucks is? But I can't do that with an AED. To me, it just seemed crazy. My mission was to have AED locations listed as a searchable item on your smartphone. I went to change.org, signed up, wrote my story, took a couple pictures, and put it out there on Facebook. And I tagged friends and family, and this change.org just kind of took on a life of its own. I mean, it quickly, you'd hit refresh and another 200 would show up, would sign up. Hit refresh, another 50 would be signed up within, a couple minutes. Then a local news station caught on our story, and they did a story about our mission. So that gained even more traction. So it was just this snowball effect that started happening.
Doug, most of us are familiar with where AEDs are in familiar places like work. Ours is here in the break room. But what about places that you're unfamiliar with? The couple that we spoke to tonight says they're trying to make that information easily accessible on your phones.
It was a life or death moment at a Plano high school when a woman suddenly collapsed.
Doctors say that she was dead for at least 5 minutes, but is alive today thanks to a group of bystanders who had the courage to help.
They all worked together to resuscitate a woman before paramedics even arrived.
The Winkler twins had just been certified for CPR and first aid at school.
Thanks to the efforts of the twins and coaches, Julie Coon is expected to make a full recovery.
Fox 4's Hannah Battaz live with the story. Good morning, Hannah.
Yeah, Tim and Lauren, good morning. We are live at Medical City Plano.
And so far, more than 300 people have signed the petition.
So with the momentum we were getting from all the media coverage and interest from getting the word out there to get AEDs locatable, Greg and I decided that the best thing to do would be to start our own charity. A charity that would be focused on this mission. And we called it Cardiac Crusade because we were on a mission to get AEDs locatable and easily accessible so that they can save lives. So what can you do to help? First, share this video on your social media and go to our website, cardiaccrusade.org, and sign up for our newsletter.
While you're at the website, go ahead and sign up to be a Cardiac Crusader. Cardiac Crusaders will help identify and verify AED locations, and they are essential to our mission. Finally, donate. All donations will help with our mission to help save lives.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Okay, you can see and hear us? All right. So that's our story. Boy, go on.
Yeah, he didn't prep me for this either.
Okay. Blah, blah. So since then, someone who knew someone at Google connected us. And so we started having conversations with Google Maps. We would have a monthly meeting. And whenever you're working with a multi-bajillion-dollar company, things move very slowly. And also since we're dealing with life and death situations, they had to be very careful. And this would be a big undertaking for them. Over the first few months, starting in 2019, two major hurdles that we had to overcome. One of them was accurate data. So the locations of where AEDs are placed or located are not going to sit on the Google Maps database or servers. They're going to API them or connect to another database that's responsible for that data. So we had interviews with different entities that would supply the database to Google Maps and also Apple Maps. The obvious choice, and I think we all know who PulsePoint is. They are the maybe not the biggest, but they're definitely the most accurate national database. So we have had many conversations with our friend Rich over there. He's been great, and he's a great supporter of what we're doing. And so that's the database that we're going to be working with. So the other big one is that Google Maps wanted to make sure that whatever they did, we didn't interfere. Them having the AED locations on their phones would not interfere with proper protocol. For example, if we're having lunch somewhere, and someone has a cardiac arrest next to us, that we're not calling 911, doing CPR. We're instead working on our phones, trying to find the closest AED, and the person dies. That's what they're afraid of. So Jerry Overton is the president of the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. He loves us, and he is awesome. And so basically that his organization that he's the president of creates the protocols for what emergency systems do. And so Jerry personally got involved and said, what Greg and Julie are doing and what Cardiac Crusade is doing, it will do nothing but save lives. So your concern is valid, but not. So Jerry was awesome and has been very involved with what we're doing as an important cog in what we're doing. So then COVID hit. Everything was on pause for a year. Google Maps had more important things to do than deal with us. And so as we've been coming out of COVID, I want to get this thing going. And we can't, Google Maps, Google, Apple too, you can't move a barge in a second. They've got to go through all the processes. And there was one time our contact there noticed a little frustration that it wasn't happening. And he goes, Greg, you guys have moved mountains. Don't forget, it will happen. It has to be the right time, the right situation, the right circumstances. It may be a month, a year, 10 years, but what you're doing will happen. So while that's all happening, Rich and over at PulsePoint said, okay, let's continue our mission to get it on get it to publication is what they call it, where you can say, like you say, hey Google, hey Google, hey sir, where's the closest Starbucks? That is publication. And so while we're waiting for publication to happen and pushing for publication to happen, let's go ahead and make the database that will feed not only your phones, but also to 911 systems. Let's go ahead and make that as robust as possible. So now this is kind of a secondary, but in parallel mission in our ultimate goal. So right now, we are doing everything we can to grow the database. And it's about that time when Julie got a job.
Oh.
Sorry, I surprised you on that one.
Greg moved his office in the house, and so it seemed best for just life in general for us to have something to talk about. So one of us had to go out of the house and do something. And the kids were out of the house. So yeah, I am.
Well, you were a stay-at-home mom for 20 whatever years.
Yeah. Yep. And it seemed the right time to go back to the love I had. One of my first jobs in my 20s, honestly, from straight out of college, was with American Airlines, and got laid off in 2000 and became a stay-at-home mom. And then when they went their way and were in grad school and college, I decided that it's time for me to do something again, because I needed something to keep me active and something that I love. So I am traveling. I'm a flight attendant for American Airlines and really loving it, really loving it.
So that happened about a year and a half ago. And it was about that time after she started flying. And we went to CAS in San Diego and the convention down there last November. It's already been a year. Is that right? My date's right. So we had a poster presentation and met a lot of people. So we were standing there, and there was a guy that came up and said, hey, I work with Zoll. Oh, he asked what we're doing, I explained our mission. And he goes, oh, that's really cool. And he says, yeah, he's with Zoll. I'm like, oh, Zoll. Yeah, because I know kind of the history of Zoll. They bought out a company, and there's a lot of merging and all that with Zoll. But I also understand that under their umbrella is the aedregistry.com, I believe is the website, and owned by Zoll. And the thing is that it was the largest AED database as far as numbers, but the problem is that they weren't verified. So from my perspective, it's a dead database. It does not do it any good. Now, of course, they're going to use it for marketing and stuff. So when he handed me his card and walked away, I looked at it, and it was the CEO of Zoll. And I kind of said in a very nice way that you've got this huge database. He goes, yes. And I was like, it's not, I mean, you probably send emails and marketing stuff from that database. Yes. Okay, well, can you take that database and import it into the PulsePoint database and merge it so that at least it can be utilized to save lives? And a few months later, I found out that it happened. Now, I ain't taking claim of a claim that because of my conversation with him, but it was maybe part of it. Maybe I pushed it a little bit, but anyway, that was a very, very big success. So PulsePoint now is truly taking the lead with the numbers, their verification processes, et cetera. The other huge success that we had was with Google Business Profile. They sent, after many exchanges back and forth, they sent 7.5 million emails to every business, brick and mortar business in the country that has employees and customers coming and going, asking if they had an AED on premise. Within 30 hours, they registered 4,000 plus AEDs. So it was amazing how quickly that all happened. So that was a huge success that we had with Google Maps. So, oh, got my text going. So one of the things that we did when we're in CAS, obviously everyone on this call knows that the national survival rate is 10% nationally on average. But the survival rate in San Diego is between 50 and 70%. And that's amazing. So how did that happen? Many of us on this call know who Mo O'Connor is, and she is the best in the world. So I had a couple conversations with her and basically picking her brain. Why do they have such a high survival rate? And it's because that city has over 2,600 verified AEDs in the area. And plus there's 911 systems are incorporated. So they're really, they're the shining star. So I took what I learned from Mo, put it together, and okay, so if San Diego can do that, let's do what San Diego has done and bring that elsewhere. So I've got a cousin who lives in Buffalo, New York. Of course, Damar Hamlin is with the Buffalo Bills. Global story with his sudden cardiac arrest. My cousin's very involved a couple years ago. So my cousin's very involved with the city. He knows the mayor. He's that kind of guy. And he goes, I want to let's duplicate this in Western New York. So we got a fellowship. And it's really from Dr. Bassan, who is the medical director for the Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo Sabres, that was hands-on Damar Hamlin. He loves what we've done, and so he is allowing his people to spearhead this project with him and his doctors group to add 1,000 AEDs to the map in Western New York. So we have a mission. And
it's like a project to get the Buffalo area involved in making a difference.
So we have, I think, 25, 30 volunteers. So we did a launch, and I'm going to play a video talking about that launch. Stand by. All right, let me go Max. And
we begin with a look back at the terrifying images and football fans you across the nation will likely never forget. The moment Damar Hamlin went into cardiac arrest at Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati. The young athlete now alive because of the life-saving measures taken by the team's medical staff. Now, since that game, heart safety has become top of mind across Western New York. CPR and AED trainings have been taking place in your schools, your job, and at community events, all in an effort to give you the tools to go from bystander to lifesaver. Now, that same push being seen today. Students at UB are pushing to register the locations of AED across our region for easy access in a moment when every second counts. And tonight I met the fellow leading the charge for AEDs to be added into businesses across Western New York, a Western New Yorker who has been partnering with the university, and a medical student who came to learn more about the importance of AEDs.
A lot of people aren't really aware of where their nearest AED is when they go to work or when they're home or that kind of thing, especially in other areas where access is not as good to AEDs, so in underserved areas as well.
Call 911. Do chest compressions, then use the AED. These are the three things to do when someone goes into cardiac arrest, and in that order, in the hopes of helping someone stay alive.
We really don't know what happens in the university or maybe when you walk down the street. So I guess learning CPR is the best way to make a person survive.
It seems like an easy task. According to the Cleveland Clinic, about 54% of Americans say that they know how to do CPR, but only 1 in 6 know that the recommended technique for a bystander CPR consists of just chest compressions and no breaths on an adult. UB Jacobs School of Medicine doctoral candidate Rhonda Drews is part of a team at the university.
If you look at a city that Cardiac Crusade partners with Pulse Point, San Diego, the chances of survival is 50% as opposed to 10%, which is the national average for sudden cardiac arrest.
The partnership includes the Erie County Health Department, UBMD, Sports Medicine, Cardiac Crusade, and Pulse Point, which is a mobile app created to registering every AED in the country. Julie Coon is the co-founder of Cardiac Crusade, something that holds near and dear to him.
My wife had a sudden cardiac arrest in 2018.
18.
His wife, Julie, is part of the 10% club that survived cardiac arrest.
911 was called immediately. Within 45 seconds, she was given CPR, and in 2 minutes, she got the first of 2 shocks. So she survived it. She had a great outcome, no cognitive issues at all.
His organization is working to ensure that there is 1,000 AEDs on the map in Buffalo from now through February 14th. To do so, you have to become an AED location verifier through a 20-minute online training. A verifier will be able to identify, locate, register, and verify an AED. This makes them available to locate by your local 911 or EMS system and soon natively on your smartphone.
I feel so lucky and just so fortunate that, you know, she's part of the 10% club, that people took action, that people went to her when she dropped to the ground.
The contest is open to anyone in the 8th County area. All you have to do is go to this story on our website to sign up to become a volunteer and an AED verifier.
So that, you guys can hear me again? Okay. Jasmine, did you know that you were famous in Buffalo now? So we've got a $3,500 fellowship that was given to the cause, and $1,000 is going to go to the number one the person who registers the most AEDs, 500 for second, 300 for third, and it's going to end in the middle of February. So we are learning from what we're doing in Buffalo, and the medical director for the Bills is good friends with all the other medical directors around the country, with the other NFL cities. And the goal is then to take it into other cities.
Greg has lofty plans, don't you see? He thinks big.
So ultimately, to kind of wrap it up, so we've had a lot of successes. I gave you know her story. You've got the beginning of our charity and some of the successes we have. Obviously, our goal is to get AED locations listed natively on smartphones, not just an app like the Pulse Point app. It's amazing, but it has to be, hey Google, hey Siri, and it pops up like Starbucks. So that's our ultimate goal. That's still happening. But what we want to do is take what we've done in Buffalo and go take it across the country. And another new thing is another goal that I've put on my shoulders is it's amazing what Pulse Point has done. You know, you have to verify it every year. After 12 months, it goes from a verified status to an identified status, and you got to re-verify it every year, which is amazing. No other company does that, or database does that. But there are companies that have like services that do it once a month. That's better than once a year. But once a month, still things can go wrong. So our goal is to go live, and there's some technologies out there that are emerging. And so the goal is
live monitoring.
Live monitoring. Yeah. I'm sorry, yeah, live monitoring. And they're checked every 24 hours. So there is, you know that if you need an AED, that it's there and it's going to work. So people say, you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We have eaten an elephant, and I still have to remind myself that we have done that. However, that eaten elephant now has a herd of elephants right behind it, and so we got a long way to go. So that's where we are. We've done a lot, but it's crazy.